Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to give you an update on the press conference that took place today on Capitol Hill, wherein victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell publicly spoke, many of them for the first time. The press conference was facilitated by Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna and Republican Congressman Thomas Massie. I repeat, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie. Marjorie Taylor Greene was there as well, and she took a kind of a front row seat in the proceedings. Apparently, over 100 victims of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were on Capitol Hill today. Their lawyers were with them. The survivors shared details that no one had heard before, and they unanimously called for the release of the Epstein files.
And to be clear, the only motive for opposing this bill would be to conceal wrongdoing. You have a choice. Stand with the truth or with the lies that have protected predators for decades. I am no longer weak. I am no longer powerless. And I'm no longer alone. And with your vote, neither will the next generation be. President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now and this country needs it now. Thank you.
Now, I should point out that the victims did not name any of the other men who abused them, apart from Jeffrey Epstein, of course, for fear of being sued, for fear of retribution, but also out of the frustration that they have already named these men and nothing happened. The DOJ did not proceed with any charges. So, when asked, why don't you just name these men right now? Here's what some of the victims and indeed their lawyers had to say.
For folks at home, they might be confused. The survivors know the names. You've seen these powerful people. Why can't you say the names? Could you just explain?
Why do we have to say the names when the government knows the names? And we're also scared to do so. Look what's happened to so many of the survivors that have revealed names.
Yeah, I find it
I think it's also worth saying that having represented, I think, between our firm and Boyce Schiller, hundreds of victims, and we've talked to them about the various people that they were farmed out to. So we've created somewhat of a list. Most of these individuals, the victims, are very scared to say these names because they could get sued, they're going to get attacked, and nobody protected them the first time. And that was against one person. So is there a list? There is a list, but just to dispel kind of the common theme here, every one of these women was abused by Jeffrey Epstein, and his scheme was to personally abuse women. When they reached a certain age, he did farm a section of them, some of them, out to some of his friends. That doesn't mean all of his friends. With that said, I'm more than happy to assist in helping create the list behind the scenes and see what we do with it.
But if someone's interested,
Go ahead.
Hold on. I think if someone's interested in prosecuting, they may have something different to say about sharing a list. But they're not sharing a list for nothing to happen, and that's the experience that they've had for all of these years.
Now, Brad Edwards, who you just heard there, he is a lawyer for a number of Epstein's victims. He actually mentioned that Donald Trump helped him in the investigation back in 2009, and Edwards highlighted the fact that Donald Trump didn't seem to think that the whole thing was a hoax back then. Listen to this.
I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that. He didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy. The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated.
Now, I should also point out that Edwards highlighted the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was offered and signed an illegal non-prosecution agreement back in 2008. He was offered that by the Department of Justice in 2008. Now, for anyone wondering, George W. Bush was the US president in 2008, and Alexander Acosta was the US attorney who signed that non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein, which was later ruled to be illegal. I will also point out that Donald Trump later appointed Alexander Acosta as the 27th United States Secretary of Labor in April of 2017 during Donald Trump's first term in office. Now, Massie-Khanna are now pursuing a discharge petition. And what that is a way to force a vote on an issue even when the House Speaker is blocking it. The Khanna-Massie discharge petition calls for the release of the full Epstein files as an official act of full Congress. But Donald Trump has publicly declared that signing that the Massie-Khanna discharge petition would be viewed as a hostile act against the Trump regime, and the regime is threatening Republicans who would dare to sign that petition. Now, as deplorable and inappropriate as it might seem, shortly after this press conference, Trump doubled down on his claim that the entire Jeffrey Epstein issue is a Democrat hoax.
Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C.
Coincidentally, before Trump renewed his hoax claim, one of the survivors was asked how she felt about this claim prior to the press conference, because Donald Trump has been making this claim for a number of months. And here's what this survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse had to say on that topic.
These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not... Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Now, a lot of people speculate about whether this issue, the Jeffrey Epstein issue, will be the issue to bring down Donald Trump and the Republican MAGA regime. My position is it will not. And here's why I say that. One of the core issues that differentiates Policy Watch from a lot of the other progressive political commentary channels is that on this channel, we acknowledge the elephant in the room. And by that, I mean I'm willing to acknowledge the fact that the data clearly indicates that the outcome of the 2024 election was aggressively manipulated by the Republican Party. And it appears that the Republicans have merely refined their ability to do this since 2016. I'll just remind you, this is what normal election data would look like. And this is what manipulated election data looks like. There is absolutely no reason why the results, why a candidate's vote share should change as voter turnout percentage increases. This is what it should look like. If a candidate's share of the vote is approximately 80%, it should remain 80%, regardless of how many people show up to a particular poll or how many votes are cast in a particular ballot box. If vote share increases as voter turnout increases or as the number of ballots in a box increases, those are classic fingerprints of ballot stuffing. We've seen this kind of thing for decades in places like Russia. So, I'm willing to acknowledge the elephant in the room. And for that reason, I believe what we have with the Republican Party is a party that's incredibly emboldened by the knowledge that regardless of how unpopular they may be, they've got a way to win every election. I'll remind everyone that prior to the 16th century, most astronomers believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system. And needless to say, that an astronomer who had that core belief would fail to produce meaningful astronomy. Similarly, a political analyst who fails to understand what is happening with respect to these issues that I'm pointing out here would likely be somewhat limited in their ability to make predictions or to understand where various candidates, especially Republican candidates, are coming from when they approach various issues like the Epstein issue. So, there you have it. It just doesn't matter how unpopular Donald Trump or the Republicans are. I can personally guarantee you, if the United States continues to use voting machines in the midterms, in the general elections, the Republicans will just continue to win those elections. And they will likely grow more adept at covering their tracks. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Art Lightstone. This is Policy Watch, and I'll see you in the next one.